Hello, y'all. It is your man, the Cozy Representative, back again. Different kind of video today. Never thought I would ever be making a video about this band, or these people, but I am. So let me explain myself a little bit. So basically, if you're, assuming you're no stranger to YouTube, and the general, stuff that's going on right now, the Davi Vanity, situation is kind of a big deal. The dude is getting exposed. I mean, a lot of people kind of knew this for a while, but he's getting like super blown up for basically being a huge sexual predator, child predator, for years, for over a decade now. Dozens and dozens and dozens of women are coming forward who have had, who basically were assaulted, abused by him. And these women who are adults now, almost all of them were like 13, 14, 15, some as young as 10 at the time when the assaults went down. Super just horrific, tragic, unfortunate situation, super gross, where, right now, he's gotten away with it for way too long, and right now, a bunch of people on YouTube are talking about it, which is great. Chris Hansen is doing an investigation on it, which is amazing. There's been other YouTubers who are kind of doing their own investigations and whatnot on it, which is also a great thing. Awareness is being raised, or spread rather, and it's a great thing, and we're working closer and closer towards getting this man, or this, I can't even call him a man. He's kind of a disgusting excuse for a human being, if you ask me, but getting closer and closer to getting this person in prison. So my video. Why am I making this video? Well, I was very back and forth on whether I was going to talk about this topic, mostly because, from my point of view, I was kind of like, I don't know if I really have anything to add to this conversation. I mean, this is, one that kind of hits close to home for me, because if you know anything about me or my channel, I, talk about bands from the Warped Tour scene that Blood on the Dance Floor existed in back in the day. That's kind of my thing. My bread and butter, so to speak. So, because of, and, growing up, I was not really a fan of Blood on the Dance Floor, but I was a fan of bands like Broken Side and, Jeffree Star's old music and Dot Dot Curve and all the Warped Tour stuff that was going on in 08, 09, 2010, so on and so forth. So, I was always aware of Blood on the Dance Floor. I knew all their, hit songs. I had friends who liked them, so this situation is one that hits close to home for me, because it's kind of this artist that's affiliated with a scene that I grew up in, that I found comfort and solace in growing up, and still do as an adult, still love. And like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a video about it, because I wasn't sure if I had anything new to add to the conversation, until some people that I'm friends with helped me realize that a lot of the people covering this story, talking about it, weren't necessarily like scene kids back in the day. A lot of the people talking about the situation, a lot of the people interested in it, either weren't necessarily scene kids back in the day, or maybe had never heard of Blood on the Dance Floor, or sort of knew Blood on the Dance Floor, but didn't really, know them too well, you know what I mean? Or really understand the scene that they came from, and the culture in which they came from. And I feel like basically what I want to do is give a rundown on the story of the band Blood on the Dance Floor. Not necessarily, this isn't gonna be a drama video. I am going to be talking about some drama in it, obviously, because their career was very drama-filled, you know what I'm saying? But this video serves as a documentation of the career of the band Blood on the Dance Floor, and the scene that they came from, the career that they had, all the ups and downs, and who they were affiliated with, you know what I'm saying? So for anyone interested who might not know much about the band itself, or who they were, where they came from, what they represented at the time, this video is for you, or just, whatever. So, without any further ado, I know that was kind of long, let's get into it. Yeah, this is the rise and fall of Blood on the Dance Floor. Let's go. Okay, so to start this off, I thought it would be good to give a good backstory of, you know, the scene in which Blood on the Dance Floor came from, which was the crunkcore scene, which was hugely popular. I'd say just around 2008, 2009, 2010 was really when it was popular and existed and whatnot. The biggest bands in the scene, the most noteworthy ones, I guess, would be, you know, Broken Side.
Let's get a little fucking crazy, come on!
Jeffree Star, his early stuff.
I got that terminator try. You can give me a sideboard load. I can swallow a whole. So wet it flows. Spin on this it. Obama's rubbing my clit. I got that boom boom wow. Nigga, can you go boom boom out?
And Blood on the Dance Floor. Were definitely one of the biggest bands that came out of this wave. There were a lot of other artists that were around during this time and were popular too, such as Curve, The Millionaires, Dropping a Popped Locket was one of them, JJ Demon, Jay Bigga, you know, even artists like Breathe Carolina or I Set My Friends on Fire or 303 had elements of crunkcore. They weren't necessarily crunkcore, but had elements of it. Yeah, anyways, so all of these bands had the same sort of common themes within their lyrics. Partying, getting crunk in the club, you know, getting fucked up is what they were singing about. Being famous, or sort of infamous, rather, within the scene. Being seen, having haters, not giving a fuck, and of course, very obscene lyrics about having lots and lots of sex. It was party music, but it was also a lot of times just very obscene and flashy and out there, just for the hell of it, just for the sake of being obscene and flashy, and offensive. And I guess you know, the general sound of the music was sort of crunk beats with sort of T-Pained auto-tuned vocals over them, and the most polarizing aspect was like hardcore screaming as well going on.
Get crunk! Get crunk! Get crunk! Get crunk!
Naturally, this attracted a lot of hate at the time by older people and elitists within the scene. However, it attracted the attention of tons and tons of young, freaky, rebellious teenagers all over the country. And that, honestly, is what I love so much about the crunkcore wave. What I loved at the time and what I love today is that it was so against the grain and anti-status quo. You know, it was literally fuck the man music. Fuck the adults. Fuck anyone who says that music has to sound a certain way or you have to look a certain way. Even though it was goofy, like, that's what was punk rock about it. You know, punk rock is pretty goofy looking, and if you think about it. And also the music was literally all about just having a good time and being yourself. At the end of the day, yeah, sure, there was the lyrics about the partying and getting fucked up, and we'll get into the whole Blood on the Dance Floor thing in a second. But I'm more talking about the wave itself and the artists who weren't, you know, pedophiles. Crunkcore was a big fuck you to the system, and somehow, against all odds, amongst all the people back in the day who were calling it just an embarrassing fad, a trend that will be out of style within 6 months and won't be remembered, it really has had a resurgence within the whole SoundCloud rap, emo rap movement, and a lot of those artists, like Broken Side and Curve, ended up being hugely influential on today's emo rap artists, such as Lil Peep or Juice WRLD. Hell, even in XXX Tentacion's interview with Adam22 on No Jumper, he literally name-checks Blood on the Dance Floor and said he used to listen to them and was inspired by them as a kid.
I grew up listening to The Fray, 3 Days Grace, Papa Roach.
Really?
So yeah, bro, like I was weird. I listened to Blood on the Dance Floor, like yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I was fucking weird.
But you
bro.
weren't into rap?
So let's get into who are Blood on the Dance Floor. Let's get into it. Blood on the Dance Floor was the brainchild of Jesus David Torres from Orlando, Florida. This apparently was him in high school, which, oh my god, are you, this really, oh god. I didn't think that this was him at first, but, you know, if you look at his face, it's like, yeah, that's him. And sometime after that picture was taken, he became known on MySpace as Davi the Rockstar Hairdresser, or Davi the Elite Hair God. He, you know, started dressing the scene look, you know, this the Warped Tour, you know, emo scene kid look. I guess he was more scene than emo. But basically, before he started doing music as Blood on the Dance Floor, he posed as a hairdresser who will do your mad rad hair, you know, through MySpace. Hit him up on MySpace. You know, there's all these pictures of him like doing people's hair and whatnot. Yeah, he was doing the hairdresser thing, but it is speculated, specifically in the Repzilla interview with Davi Vanity abuse survivors Jess and Ashley Lilly, it's speculated that he actually wasn't even a real licensed hairdresser at all, and that it was all an act. He did not have, like, a job as a hairdresser, and it has been also confirmed that this whole time his scene hair has been a wig this whole time, which I only learned recently, which is pretty wild. Although on his MySpace he made it apparent that that's what his professional job title was. He had pictures of himself obviously doing people's hair. Yeah, and this MySpace account I found is just absolutely fucking crazy and ridiculous. I can't believe that people were like this at the time. Yeah, God, who am I? I'm the new revelation to this dreary world. Davi Vanity, your elite hair god. Cocky? Pfft, not my fashion. I prefer confidence and very down to earth. That's like the most poorly constructed sentence ever, bro. Okay, yeah, this is my favorite part. Davi, you're so obscene. I got that wicked style and I love it wild. I never really cared if people stared. I'm a walking form of pop art, and when you talk your shit, you're only making me famous. He talked like an 11-year-old, like, middle school girl trying to be edgy. This is how, you know what I mean? People did talk like this at the time, but okay, I also just have to point out, before I even finish reading this dude was literally like 23 or 24 at this time. That's how old I am now. I'm not a trend sweater, I'm a trend setter. You gotta break the mold before you grow to old. Bitch, please. Your gossip has made me an indestructible celebrity. Nice. Get close and see what happens. I'm fierce to the Maximus. I'm a lover, not a dancer, and I'll get you wetter than Hurricane Katrina. I heart hair and giving people what they want. Making people utterly beautiful is what I do on a daily basis. I've taken rags and turning them... Okay, whatever, you get it. Cringe-tacular 5000. I mean, you know, the scene kid in me does kind of miss when people, you know, talked like this, but fuck, man. The dude, you know, this dude that we're looking at literally turned out to be a huge pedophile, so I don't like it in this case. So anyways, thanks to his, you know, scene look and internet savviness, as we just saw, Davi became very popular on MySpace, just on his own, without a band. MySpace popularity at the time, or people who were considered to be MySpace celebrities, for those of you who don't know, who weren't around back then, these people were basically the original version of what we know now as influencers. Before you had Instagram models or Twitter personalities or even YouTubers, you had people who had a shit ton of friends and comments and influence in general on the MySpace platform. MySpace is where it started. Some examples of these people who were insanely popular on MySpace, and some of, you know, the original influencers, so to speak, came from this scene. Definitely Jeffree Star himself was one of them. The millionaires, you know, people like Jack Vanek or Hannah Beth, you know, Christopher Drew from Never Shout Never, huge on MySpace, Nicosaur, and, of course, Davi Vanity himself. So let's get into the music career, shall we? Blood on the Dance Floor.
Dance fires up in this room, expecting certain doom.
Attention, please. Everyone in the dance club, freeze. Remain the position and bleed.
Okay, Davi Vanity officially started his music project in 2006 under the name Love the Fashion, was what it was called originally, alongside someone named Christopher Mongillo, Mongillo, I'm going to say Mongillo, and Rebecca Fugatti. I don't know if that's how you pronounce either of those last names, but that's how I like to say them, so I'm going to run with those for right now. This early group was originally considered just a fun joke, nothing serious, until about a year later, in July of 2007, Love the Fashion morphed into a more serious project, Blood on the Dance Floor. Alright, so this was the earliest, like, archived Blood on the Dance Floor MySpace page that I could find, from November of 2007. Okay, let's read the description right off the bat. Blood on the Dance Floor is a high, sexually pumped, energetic, theatrical thrill ride of your life from Orlando, Florida, comprised of 3 electro-loving musicians with a passion for fashion, sex, and hot beats that assassin. Following the recent release of the single, which upon further sleuthing, I believe was the song Money and Hose, which sounded like this.
I got money and hoes in different area codes. I walk down the block, they want what I got. I got money and hoes in different area codes.
We will be starting work on our yet-to-be untitled debut EP, tentatively scheduled for March. A tour is to shortly follow the launch of our EP, so get ready, guys. We have some ultra top secret stuff planned for the shows, so stay tuned and we will keep you posted. Thank you all. We love our fans, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, yeah, cool. Alright, Blood on the Dance Floor. It's starting. So one interesting thing I wanted to note, if you look at the members section, obviously you have Davi Vanity as lead singer. You have someone named Maddie M on drums and screams, as well as Christopher on programming and keys. Now, Christopher, obviously, as documented, was in the original group Love the Fashion, but this Rebecca Fugatti person is nowhere to be found in this original Blood on the Dance Floor page. I do not know who Maddie M is, but I guess he presumably replaced Rebecca around this time. Okay, so as I stated in the description, it says their debut EP was tentatively scheduled to be released the following March. From my understanding, what was supposed to be that EP, I don't know what happened, but it got turned into a full-length record, which, you know, ended up being Blood on the Dance Floor's first full-length, Let's Start a Riot, which was self-released on April 16th, 2008.
Bitches get stitches, they end up in ditches, so get the riches. Bitches get stitches, end up in ditches, get the riches.
Alright, so just for the record, I want to say, for all this stuff, like, for this video, I went back and listened to, like, pretty much every Blood on the Dance Floor album, and God, what a journey, man. Alright, so, anyways, so this album, Let's Start a Riot, you know, it's pretty much the earliest version, the prototype, if you will, of the sound and style of Blood on the Dance Floor, naturally, you know, because it's their first album. That's usually what a first album is. Some standout tracks. It's not very good. It's not good at all. I'm not even, like, just saying that. Even of all the Blood on the Dance Floor stuff that I heard, this album is the most, like, it sounds like an 8th grader's, like, first attempt at making music in general, and just making, like, really weird, bad, like, offensive rap songs or whatever. There were standout tracks on this album, and what I mean by standout tracks, because I don't think these tracks are, I don't think any songs on this are, like, better than any of the other ones, you know what I mean? But, like, songs that I remember being hits in the scene, so to speak, you know, that I remember my friends listening to and showing me back in the day. One of those songs is the song Bitches Get Stitches. This song is probably the best representation of the overall sound and style of Blood on the Dance Floor as far as on this album. It makes sense that their MySpace at the time said that their 2 biggest influences were Hello Goodbye and Jeffree Star, because this song basically sounds like if you took the instrumental of Bonnie Taylor's Shakedown 2K4 by Hello Goodbye, slowed it down a bit, and put knockoff dollar store Jeffree Star ripoff rap verses over it.
Stop the hate, congratulate, you know my name, so eat some cake. Party hardy, grab the cardi, talk your shit, watch you get hit.
Basically, that's what this was. That's kind of what this whole album was. Essentially, Davi, at least on this album, was not very good at rapping, or whatever it is that he's doing, and he, you know, he doesn't really have the best, like, lyrical cadence or flow. It's all very choppy and beginner. You know, the choruses aren't really choruses. I don't know, man. And like I said, the lyrics are all either, you know, crude, explicit lyrics about, you know, getting girls to S my D or fucking your face in the Bugatti, or, you know, my hair looks so fabulous, they're looking at my bling while I walk down the street type shit. You know what I mean? That's kind of the general vibe of this whole album. The song Bitches Get Stitches features lyrics like, stop the hate, congratulate, you know my name, so eat some cake. Party hardy, grab Bacardi, talk your shit, watch you get hit, save the drama for your mama, what's up with that awful gossip, don't be mad, cause my hair is so rad, life is good up in my hood. You get the idea. Another standout song, if you will, another minor hit amongst scene kids back in the day was the song I Heart Hello Kitty. This is the one that opened up with that lyric, attention please, everyone in the dance club freeze, remain the position and bleed, which was a very quoted lyric, you know, amongst scene kids back in the day and people's photo captions and whatnot. You know what I'm talking about. As far as the instrumental, like the beat of the song, I have absolutely no idea what the song is doing. It's very kind of odd. This song featured more, you know, absolutely just poignant lyrical gold, such as H-E-L-L-O, show me how you're such a hoe. K-I-T-T-Y, bitch, I'll make you fucking cry. H-E-L-L-O, get down on your knees and blow. K-I-T-T-Y, you're such a fucking cutie pie. Alright, we're getting the idea here. This album had other fan favorites such as Sex and Violence, Till Death Do We Party, and the song Blood on the Dance Floor. To add more confusion regarding the lineup of Blood on the Dance Floor around this time, according to their MySpace page circa February 2008, that Maddie M character who had replaced, you know, presumably replaced Rebecca Fugatti a few months back, was apparently gone now, and the official lineup was listed as just Davi and Christopher. However, it does list Rebecca as a live member, providing backup keyboards and vocals, as well as someone named Lynn as a live dancer. Now, this was, like I said, February 2008. Although it is apparent that original member Rebecca was no longer an official member of BOTDF by the time Let's Start a Riot was released, and apparently wasn't even in the band during the recording of the album, you know, when Maddie M was in the band, what are presumably her vocals do make appearances randomly throughout the album. For example, in the song Till Death Do We Party in the second verse.
Fuck me in the club and light this bitch up. Fuck me in the dirt, lift up my sexy skirt.
According to Genius.com, the other male voice that occasionally appears throughout this album, providing some ad-libs, screams, and occasional singing parts here and there, was performed by band member Christopher Mongillo. It is unclear if this Maddie M character actually had anything to do with these recordings or this album at all. I don't know. But either way, Davi did do like 90% of the vocals on this album and served as the band's frontman and ringleader. And he was also the only band member to appear on the front cover art of the album. So obviously, you know, there were other members, but it kind of was the Davi show. So regardless of this early lineup confusion, it doesn't really matter because Christopher Mongillo, Maddie M, and Rebecca Fugatti, or whatever, were actually all out of the picture by the time summer 2008 rolled around, allegedly due to their inability to start touring, which Davi wanted to do around this time, to which Davi enlisted a young man named Garrett McLaughlin, aka Garrett Ecstasy, as his new right-hand man. Garrett provided screams and other backup vocals, and Blood on the Dance Floor was now officially a duo between the two of them.
Garrett, tell the camera what Davi's gonna do.
He's gonna this.
I'm not good at
This is BOTDF. We're here with an interview. What's up?
Blood on the Dance Floor. Garrett Ecstasy.
Davi Vanity.
And we are Blood on the Dance Floor.
How long have you been playing?
2 years.
2 years. We're working on 2 years. Davi was together for about, you know, half year working on that, and then I frequently joined. My sister actually started dating Davi, and I met Davi in Orlando at a Jeffree Star concert.
We love our fans. Don't forget, we're the fans band. And this is our goal, this is our purpose, is to make you guys happy.
We hope you guys have a lot of fun tonight, you know? I mean, like this,
And our show's about partying. And you see a lot of YouTube videos of people like hating and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, it's a lot of love. We're all about the love movement. And we're all about spreading a positive message. You know, positivity is our philosophy. That's what's up.
A lot of parents think, you know, like we have a lot of problems with parents telling their kids, oh, you're not going to Blood on the Dance Floor show, or like venues telling us we're not allowed to curse or everything. We're like, you know, that's our act. I mean, a bunch of people see it as like, oh my God, that's so bad and negative. But really, we're being positive. We're taking away from the war. We're taking away from the politics problems. We're taking away.
You gotta look at the everyday.
Having fun. You know what I mean?
You know, we're here to make people feel good about each other. You know, yeah, we wear fucking crazy hair. Yeah, our outfits are ridiculous. But this is what makes us happy. You know what I mean? This is pure bliss. And if people don't get that, whatever. Do what makes you happy. You know what I mean? Like, people gonna hate you. That's fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. You should be yourself and be the best at it. You know? I'm just spreading love. That's it.
Garrett Ecstasy joined the band as Davi was in the process of recording the next Blood on the Dance Floor full length, which ended up being self-released once again on September 12th, 2008, and was titled It's Hard to Be a Diamond in a Rhinestone World. Now, before I get into anything, I just want to talk about this album cover. You know, it shows a picture of Davi in full scene gear, goggles, all the works, standing in front of a white background. Now, this album cover sort of became somewhat of an iconic image within the crunkcore scene at the time, for whatever reason. Kind of like how that Minor Threat album cover, the one with the bald guy, like, sitting with his head in his hands, kind of, for whatever reason, became an iconic image within, like, the early 80s punk hardcore scene. This image, for whatever reason, was just a very, like, iconic image in that crunkcore scene, at least as how I remember it. Also, this album in general did a lot better than their first one, and it was kind of like the iconic Blood on the Dance Floor album. There were songs that did very well on it. It kind of put them on the map, but we'll get into that in a second. There was also, in fact, a deluxe edition of this album released a year later in 2009, which featured the same image of Davi, but with Garrett Ecstasy photoshopped in there right next to him. There's actually, not that it like fucking matters at all, but there's been a couple more variations on the album art over the years, as Davi has released various other deluxe editions of it. For example, this Platinum edition in 2013, as well as the Legacy Collection version in 2019. I don't know who the fuck is buying this album in 2019, but you know, it's a strange, crazy, vast world out there. Let's be real. As I was saying, musically, this album is definitely the next step, the more elevated, more developed version of the sound they had of their previous record, Let's Start a Riot. Davi sounds, well, keep in mind, this album is absolutely garbage, but here's, I just want to say this video, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but this is in no way promoting, like, the music of Blood on the Dance Floor at all. I'm gonna review the albums a little bit, but I'm not by any means, like, this, like, Davi is a horrible person, and, like, no one should support that shit at all. This is just for the hell of it, you know what I mean? Just if anybody's curious, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, Davi sounds a lot more confident with his vocal delivery this time around. His raps flow a little better, I guess, than they did the last time. He sounds a little bit more experienced, a little more seasoned on this one than the, you know, beginner vibes he had on the last album. So the instrumentals are a lot better on this album, and are a lot less weird and kind of grating on the ears than the album before. It's a lot less of, you know, what I was saying, just like a Hello Goodbye Jeffree Star ripoff. It sounds a lot more like its own thing on this album. BOTDF sounds a little bit more unique on this album, and like they were sort of really discovering their own sound, paving their own way, you know, their own lane within the crunkcore scene at the time, if you will. This album did feature several fan favorites and songs that were very well known within the MySpace crunkcore scene at the time. The biggest songs on the album were definitely S My D.
S My D, pop it out like lipstick, razor sharp eyelashes on my fashion, just thrushes in S My D.
And I'm a Monster was also, you know, I remember this scene girl that I knew showing me that song back in the day and me being like, interesting.
Can't stop the tickles, they call me Dr. Giggles. They saw out the chisel for shizzle dizzle. I'm banging with the BLTL dizzle with riffles, cause I dribble like I'm rubbing on nipples.
Also, the songs Keys to the Bakery and the title track on the album were also noteworthy minor hits within the scene as well. So it's kind of funny. I mean, not like haha funny, but it's interesting that if you look back at it now, kind of knowing what we know now, a good majority of these lyrics you know, when you take away the fun, colorful, you know, goofy MySpace era lingo, the front that it has up, and if you just look at them for what they are, this album is in a lot of ways really just one big, almost like a confessional to being a giant sexual predator. I mean, there are even like literal allusions to pedophilia within these songs. This dude cannot go 20 seconds without talking about sex or fucking someone's face or whatever the fuck. On the bed, give me head. Make you scream, candy cream. Seen sluts like it's super rough. That's the way they like to fuck. I like to twerk, I like to hurt. Bitch, don't make me fucking work. I'll lick it up, I'll suck it up. Now get on the floor, let's fuck it up. Squish, squish on your chest. Rub those titties, super breast. Knick knack, patty whack, give you boy a heart attack. Cause I dribble like I'm rubbing on nipples. Gotta get out the pickle, make it rain with the ripples. Let my candy rum trickle, get you buzzed with double triples. Getting head in rentals, avoiding the parentals. Alright, let me stop you right there, Davi. You get the idea, it just goes on and on like that. Either way, this album did super well online and within the crunkcore scene at the time, and Blood on the Dance Floor was now super big on MySpace and was also starting to become more and more well-known in the alternative press / Hot Topic / Warped Tour scene in general at the time. Davi and Garrett began playing local shows where they were based around Florida, as well as doing some national touring as well.
Come on, let's rock it out. Let's get serious. Let's get serious. Give it the move your feet, feel the heat, bringing down this fashion scene, attacking, to read it, you could be a sweet tea,
In 2009, Blood on the Dance Floor released a bunch of EPs, the first of which being the I Scream EP, then another one simply called Extended Play, which featured a cover of Beat It by Michael Jackson, which is exactly how you would imagine it. They also put out an EP called Radio Edit, which featured some clean versions, some edited, literal radio edits of some songs off of the Diamond album. Interesting little release there. They also put out an EP called OMFG Sneak Peek, which was sort of like a teaser EP for what was supposed to be their next upcoming full-length album, which at the time was going to be called OMFG. These EPs are all kind of a continuation of the sound they established on the Diamond in a Rhinestone World album. Goofy, playfully obscene rap verses over dancey, flashy, electronic beats. We do, however, start to see the band start to play around with some slightly more eclectic musical styles, with adding different tones and textures to their music, like the darker vibe on Sick with a Q, and the more pop rock vibe on Up All Night. The band was also getting a bit better at making standout choruses, like on the song Scream for My Ice Cream.
Scream for my ice cream, tell me all your dirty dreams. Scream for my ice cream, tell me what's your fantasies.
Around this time, they also embarked on their very first national headlining tour called the OMFG Tour, featuring other pop / electronic opening acts such as Electric Valentine, Weston Buck, the Greenlight District, and The Crush. Midway through this tour, I'm gonna warn ya, we start to see the water in the whole Blood on the Dance Floor story start to get a bit murky. It gets a bit dark. To my knowledge, I believe it was this tour, somewhere right in the middle of this tour, on a date in Colorado. As the story goes, Davi had sexually assaulted an underage girl right before the show. The girl called the police afterwards, who arrived at the venue while Blood on the Dance Floor was on stage performing, to which the cops actually physically dragged Davi off stage in the middle of their set and arrested him. There is no actual footage of Davi being dragged off stage by police, but it is a story that has been confirmed multiple times from multiple people. In fact, on Chris Hansen's YouTube channel, if you look at the video called Have a Seat with Chris Hansen featuring Mal Levy, Ari, and Terrain, that is an actual interview with like the girl who was sexually assaulted by Davi that day and called the police. So if you want the whole story on the show from like the horse's mouth, so to speak, go check out that video because it's pretty interesting, but also like dark and sad and horrific, obviously. But either way, as the story goes, Davi ended up in jail, and his dad apparently had to drive all the way from Florida to Colorado to bail him out, and then drive all the way back, leaving Garrett Ecstasy to have to finish the tour dates all by himself without Davi. I have gotten confirmation on this by the fact that there are a few YouTube videos that I found of Garrett performing the last half of the tour all by himself. Now, Davi has always claimed innocence in this situation, claiming that the girl lied about her age, that the sex was consensual, her parents just freaked out about it. He says that, you know, she failed a rape kit and that's why the charges were dropped. All of these things now we're finding out to be untrue, but this has always been Davi's story. Now, long story short, after the OMFG tour had ended, and after this whole situation had wrapped up, Garrett Ecstasy ended up being kicked out of Blood on the Dance Floor by Davi. Davi released a statement on the matter on his blog on MySpace, which is more just absolute ridiculousness from Davi's end, but he basically slams Garrett for apparently being a no-good, lazy, selfish, good-for-nothing druggie who, you know, apparently stole Davi's trailer and gear and also tried to steal his debit card and his merch money made from Blood on the Dance Floor, claimed Garrett tried to, you know, somehow destroy Blood on the Dance Floor. These are obviously a lot of very bold claims, and it is just my humble opinion that Davi was saying all these things about Garrett because he was just trying to deflect and cover up the fact that he had literally recently been arrested for sexual assault by pointing the finger at Garrett and saying, oh no, I didn't do anything wrong. This guy, you know, tried to destroy my dream and steal my money. I don't know if these claims against Garrett are true or not, but knowing, you know, how manipulative and psychotic Davi has always been throughout the years versus how I've heard people who know Garrett say that he's a totally nice dude, I'm just going to assume that this is Davi just making up lies to try to cover his own ass. Either way, Garrett Ecstasy was fired, and he was quickly replaced by a young Javon Monroe, who was from northern Florida, who was a lot younger than Davi at this time. Davi was around 24 or so, and Jay had just turned 18. Jay was a fan of Blood on the Dance Floor and had come to a lot of BOTDF shows in the previous 2 years up to that point. Davi and Jay had built up a friendship just through shows and whatnot, and when it came time for Davi to find a new member of the band, he asked Jay, and Jay said yes. In the tail end of 2009, the band went out on tour opening for Broken Side on the Crunk Kids tour, alongside fellow openers The Ready Set, Kill Paradise, and Watch Out There's Ghosts. Many of the songs originally recorded with Garrett, intended for the upcoming OMFG album, were re-recorded with new vocals by Javon. Eventually, for unknown reasons, the previous concept for the OMFG album was scrapped and rebranded as a new upcoming album called Epic, which was set for release in 2010. In the spring of 2010, the band once again went out on tour opening for Broken Side on the Too Drunk to Fuck tour, with fellow opening acts Jeffree Star and Stereos. Around this time, despite Davi's best efforts to sweep the Colorado incident under the rug, Davi began gaining the reputation within the scene of being a sexual predator towards minors. Rumors started flying. Why is that? I will tell you. Not only was the whole Jesse Slaughter situation happening around this time, which if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you know what that is. So that shit was going on. But not only that, Jeffree Star also had a falling out with Blood on the Dance Floor, causing him to craft his infamous tweet calling out Davi for being a predator. So people were talking. In fact, do you remember that Your Scene Sucks website where they made the caricatures of the, you know, the scene stereotypes and whatnot? There is one called the Scream Molester. The Screamo Molester. And it's literally like an illustration of Davi. This is like already the reputation this dude had, you know, and Blood on the Dance Floor weren't even like big yet. They were just kind of like, you know, MySpace infamous. And I even remember it at the time, you know, I was obviously, like I have said numerous times already, a scene kid and had scene friends and whatnot, and that was the talk amongst everybody, was that Davi Vanity has had sex with underage girls, but it was all rumors. There wasn't any like official story, you know what I mean? So people didn't really know what to believe. Plus, at the time, you know, a part of sort of the crunkcore scene and the MySpace wave in general was there were always like a million rumors flying around about everybody. There were rumors about Jeffree Star, there were rumors about Broken Side being crazy, you know what I mean? And at the time, there weren't any, like, adults to step in, you know. Nowadays, like, the kids, like, the young kids are, like, woke, you know what I mean? So, all the shit that went down back in the day, I almost feel like has a way lesser of a chance of happening, because the kids know to look out for sketchy shit. But at the time, the kids did not know, the kids were not woke. We were not woke when we were young. We were like offensive for the sake of being offensive, and everyone was crazy, and there were no real adults stepping in and, you know, looking out for anybody, as far as I remember it. So while there were like a million, you know, rumors flying around about Davi, you know, doing things to minors. Like I said, you had rumors about Jeffree Star not being like a pedophile, but just rumors in general. There was a group called Mothers Against Brokencyde. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but they basically made up all these like crazy claims about Brokencyde. I remember one was they said that when Brokencyde played live, they would play a game called Show Yo Cooch, Win a Smooch, which you can guess what that means. But it turned out that was one where none of that shit was actually true. That was actually all bullshit.
Have you heard of an online group called Mothers Against Brokencyde?
No, never. No, yeah, we heard about it every day.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, have you ever actually done Show You Cooch, Win a Smooch?
Dude, everything on that website is just a straight up lie. We've never said any of those things. Nothing at all. But it's funny that what else?
Yeah, I don't know why people would hate against you like that, but
I don't know, dude.
So it was like no one really knew what to believe, was kind of the general vibe of it. But these were the rumors attached to Davi at the time. Following this, despite the spread of all these rumors and whatnot, the third Blood on the Dance Floor full-length record entitled Epic was officially released on October 5th, 2010. The band was still unsigned and released this album independently through Davi's label Dark Fantasy Records. Obviously, it is the first album with Javon Monroe. The songs do have more of a pop sensibility, more catchy choruses, and it's a bit more melodic as opposed to just rap verses with dancey electronica. They explore different genres on this album, some songs having more of a rock feel, some songs having big gang vocal sing-along parts, and overall the songs come off as a lot darker and more intense than their previous, more playful and childish material. While the subject matter of the lyrics is still generally pretty vapid and shallow and somewhat childish, the lyrical content does have a bit more depth and covers more topics than the previous music. It's not just constant, obscene, sexual lyrics. Those kind of lyrics are still there, but they do cover a little bit more ground lyrically on this album. There's lyrics about the darker side of fame, fake people, getting revenge, heartbreak, etc., etc. And I will say, honestly, Javon's vocals bring a nice flair. He sounds good, and he can actually sing. He was a good addition to Blood on the Dance Floor, if you ask me. But still, it's Blood on the Dance Floor. Nothing revolutionary or all that even remotely good. Still. As far as the, standout tracks go, well-known songs at the time, Death to Your Heart, the opening track on this album, I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty catchy little number. Not bad chorus on this one. There's a music video for this song. This song's alright. Out of all the songs I listen to, this one's okay. Still, I'm not promoting it though. Candyland was a well-known song, which, this one was as goofy and childish and crazy as ever. The big hit on this album, though, was Sexting. This was a very big song, big chorus, although it did feature this questionable lyric. Hells yeah, go for more, parents banging down the door, oh no, caught with my pants down, now I gotta leave this town. Now, I don't know how this absolute doozy of a lyric slipped through the cracks back in the day, but there it is. This album also features, just the most despicable of all Blood on the Dance Floor songs. Some of you might know where I'm going with this. The song You Done Goofed, which is kind of stylistically this sort of dark, intense rap song. It's got rain, the sound of rain falling in the beginning. It kind of reminds me of it's trying to be Stan by Eminem or something, but just with the worst rapping you've ever heard over it. Long story short, the song is directed at Jesse Slaughter, now known as Damien, who Davi had sexually assaulted when they were 10 years old. This song is targeting young Jesse for spreading false rumors about Davi, and he released this song on Jesse's 12th birthday, which Jesse then proceeded to get swarmed with hate on the internet by Blood on the Dance Floor's large, rabid fan base. The song features lyrics like, "Look at me, I'm beautiful, not a suspect of rape. Don't you know I'm the fucking boss? Read the fucking nameplate." Sounds like something a rapist would say. And probably the worst line of the whole song. The whole song is pretty bad, but probably the worst line in it is, "My name and reputation won't be the target of a slut. I'll be on top of the world and you'll be cutting yourself fucked." Now, I just have to reiterate that this song was directed towards an 11-year-old child who Davi had previously had sex with. And then they're making this song about the kid who was spreading rumors about them or whatever. It's dark and just the most mind-boggling, ridiculous thing. This song is just... the fact that that's the actual story of this song, it just bends my mind. It's so fucked up and weird and dark. Despite Davi gaining the reputation of being a sexual predator due to rumors flying within the scene, as well as this horrifying, despicable, you done goofed song featured on the album, Blood on the Dance Floor's epic album did quite well, charting at number 5 on the Billboard Top Electronic Albums, as well as number 12 on the Billboard Top Heatseekers chart. Blood on the Dance Floor were gaining traction and making quite a name for themselves within the scene somehow. And even, like, despite the fact that the crunkcore genre, which Blood on the Dance Floor had come up in, had pretty much all but died out, or at least begin to rapidly die out by the time 2011 or so rolled around. Weirdly enough, the next 2 years or so after Epic was released, we see Blood on the Dance Floor hit their commercial peak in record sales, fandom, as well as popularity within the scene. It's mind-boggling. It's insane. The band played on the 2011 Warped Tour to pretty large crowds, and at this point had added a full electric live band to their live performances. Around this time, they also released their next album called All the Rage on June 14th, 2011, which charted at number 13 on the Billboard Top Electronic Albums and number 26 on the Billboard Top Heatseekers chart. The album featured collaborations with artists such as Lady Negrady and JJ Demon. The album featured fan favorites such as the big, epic-sounding Star Power, and the goofy, fun, dirty / sexual pirate themes Yo Ho. The album also featured probably the biggest hit this band ever made, which was the song Bewitched featuring Lady Negrady. As of right now, the Bewitched music video has 24 million views on YouTube. As a former scene kid myself, I remember the song being very big within the scene when it came out, and people were surprised because it sounded a lot different than the previous music that we all knew from Blood on the Dance Floor. It was more of an epic electronic pop song with catchy melodies and actual song structure as opposed to just offensive raps and whatnot. Pretty crazy music video too, lots of crazy production. Like I said, definitely the biggest single the band ever had, and still to this day is the biggest single. And I should mention that the band was still not signed to a record label at this point, and was still doing it independently, or at least through Davi's label Dark Fantasy. Following their stint on the 2011 Warped Tour and the release of All the Rage, Blood on the Dance Floor embarked on the All the Rage tour in fall of 2011 with openers New Year's Day and Angel Spit. Fun fact, something that's worth noting, is this tour was sponsored by IsAnyoneUp.com. If anyone remembers that site, that was like that revenge porn website where you could send in naked pictures of your ex-girlfriend or whatever, and they'd be posted on the website and everyone would see them. A lot of band members, nude photos were posted on that website non-consensually. The absolute piece of shit who founded it, Hunter Moore, did some jail time for a bit. I think in relation to the site, it was a pretty horrible website, so it's kind of fitting that Blood on the Dance Floor's tour was sponsored by this, you know what I mean? Sketchy people attract sketchy people, so this is nothing but sketchiness going on. In early 2012, the band went out on another headlining tour called the Fight to Unite Tour with openers Broken Side. Remember back in 2010 when Blood on the Dance Floor was opening for Broken Side on all those old tours? Well, Blood on the Dance Floor were officially at the top of the chain now as far as, it wasn't really crunkcore anymore because that had kind of died at this point, but Warped Tour electronic bands, I guess. Also, opening up for the Fight to Unite tour, a lot of bands on this one: Deuce, Polka Dot Cadaver, William Control, The Bunny the Bear, New Year's Day again, and Haley Rose. In the summer of 2012, Blood on the Dance Floor put out their next album, which was their most commercially successful, best-selling effort to date, entitled Evolution, on June 19th, 2012, once again on Davi Vanity's record label Dark Fantasy. The album reached number 1 on the Billboard Top Electronic Albums chart, number 8 on the Billboard Top Independent Albums, and it was also the first Blood on the Dance Floor album to enter the, actual, Billboard 200, reaching number 42. Pretty crazy. They were doing some real numbers around this time. This was their peak. This was it. They were like a big band. The 18-song album had guest features from artists such as Deuce, Haley Rose, and fucking Joel Madden from Good Charlotte is featured on the song Incomplete and All Alone. Pretty crazy. I did take the time to listen to this album, and it sounds to me like a more concise, refined version of the sound Blood on the Dance Floor were known for, except this time there's hardly any of the goofy, offensive, explicit rap style stuff. The content on this album is a lot more serious in nature, and so is the music itself. The electronics are still very much present, but they are a bit more on the almost industrial side of things, and there's a bit more of a rock element, more so than they ever had before. I would compare the sound on this album a lot more to an artist like William Control as opposed to old Jeffree Star. Either way, this album did way better than any other Blood on the Dance Floor album before it, or after it for that matter, and not to mention the band spent that entire summer on their second Warped Tour in a row, except this time they were on the main stage, which is a big deal. They were killing it. It was crazy. Believe it or not, I recently actually watched through a bunch of video blogs the band had made throughout the course of being on the 2012 Warped Tour, and some interesting things I found. For one, here's Davi talking to Jeff Rickley and someone else from the band Thursday.
Oh, look! It's like the dichotomy of that guy was like fascinating. That's Blood on the Dance Floor. Yeah, and that's like saying that's Portuguese to me. I don't speak Portuguese.
Well, basically, Blood on the Dance Floor is like Hellraiser dancing. Not your traditional dance. It's aggressive dance.
That's awesome.
Here's Davi playing video games with Alex Gaskarth. And this part I literally kind of shit myself at. Of all people, New Found Glory and Hayley Williams of Paramore, obviously, seem to be really feeling Blood on the Dance Floor around this time. Here's Chad and Hayley wishing Davi a good show before he went on stage.
Thank you, man. You are too. Have a good show. Thank you.
Here's that one guy from New Found Glory, that guy, dancing and getting down to Blood on the Dance Floor. Here's Hayley Williams standing side stage, singing along and bobbing her head to Bewitched. Oh, yeah, and Jeffree Star is all over this shit.
I want to put some balls in my mouth. Motherfucker, I'm gonna suck your dick. What are you gonna do without me?
Talk shit by myself.
Despite his tweets from 2 years prior calling out Davi for being a massive pedo, at this point they obviously seem to have put their differences aside or whatever, Jeffrey has since claimed in his Chris Hansen interview, which you can go watch or you've probably obviously already seen, his side of the story was that he was manipulated to believe that the rumors about Davi from 2 years ago weren't true. I mean, his tweets did say that he saw something, but he was manipulated by Davi to, believe that it was false. I don't know, man. There's holes in the story. People speculate that he's lying about this, and that he knew more than what he's saying, and, the idea is that he chose to work with Davi again strictly for financial gain, as well as for clout gain, seeing as how, like I said, BOTDF are on the main stage at Warped Tour at this point, and we're doing quite well. So it's likely that Jeffrey put his finances ahead of his morals. But that's a whole other can of beans. Either way, the band wrapped up Warped Tour 2012. After the Evolution album and this stint on Warped Tour, we start to see their success and their relevancy start to die down and eventually burn out as once again more and more sexual assault allegations against Davi began to pile on. The band then embarked on the Scene is Dead tour featuring Jeffree Star, New Year's Day once again, as well as someone named Davey Suicide. There was also an EP released around this time called Anthem of the Outcast. On the cover, Jay and Davi are standing out in the desert, and it looks kind of like that old Motorhead album cover. And, yeah, the group ended off 2012 on a high note, am I right? It was their most successful year as a band, yet... and things were looking good, right? Wrong! Kinda. Well, we'll get there in a second. The band started off 2013 with this announcement of their next record, which would be titled Bad Blood, and they posted this announcement about it onto their Facebook page discussing the upcoming record. Bad Blood, this is our Sweet Revenge FU album. I want you, the fans, to know that we listen to all your requests, and together we are making the album you've been waiting for. Until then, we will be in the studio, on and off, working harder than ever before to create the music you want to hear. Blood, Gore, and Guts / Terror Crew. Just after announcing this album in the beginning of 2013, someone named Daniel Rodriguez, who had worked as a merch guy for the band New Year's Day, who had opened for Blood on the Dance Floor on their past 3 tours, their touring relationship dating all the way back to the All the Rage tour in 2011, took to Tumblr to let the world know about his unpleasant experience touring with Davi over the past few years. He went into detail, claiming that Davi had been inappropriate and disrespectful towards New Year's Day frontwoman Ash Costello, both offstage and onstage, apparently putting his hands around her neck one Halloween night and choking her before later trying to pass it off as just a Halloween prank, amongst other things like this. Just weird, aggressive, like roughhousey type behavior. Another thing was, throughout these tours, she would often join Blood on the Dance Floor on stage to sing a song with them, and he basically kept repeatedly, touching her inappropriately and sexually while she would be singing, despite the fact that she had repeatedly told him, to his face, that she was not okay with being touched while she sang.
I love you so much, Gord. Let's dance, come on.
This Daniel Rodriguez fellow also claims that they would constantly see girls who looked very underage going on and off the tour bus with Davi. Guys who attended the shows would be looking for their little sister or something after the show, and someone within Blood on the Dance Floor's crew would be like, oh, she's on the bus fucking Davi, or something things like that. Eventually, New Year's Day got kicked off of the Scene is Dead tour because Davi had a problem with the fact that Ash felt uncomfortable singing with him on stage. Either way, Daniel Rodriguez made this statement on Tumblr, which was an awesome thing to do. They were one of the few people in general back then to actually make a public statement about Davi's actions and stand up and try to warn people about this guy, besides, Jeffree Star a few years earlier, but we obviously see how that ended up. Following this, Davi responded to the new rumors and allegations by posting, testimonials from his friends and bandmates defending him and saying what a great, respectful guy he was to the BOTDF Facebook page. Either way, coinciding with the release of their Bad Blood album, Blood on the Dance Floor announced their official Bad Blood tour in the fall of 2013 with openers Heavy Grinder, Farewell My Love, The Release Symphony, and Haley Rose. Interestingly enough, around the time of the release of the Bad Blood album, there was also a Bad Blood documentary released alongside it, which, yes, I did watch the whole thing. Thank you very much. And insanely enough, Davi actually reveals that the Bad Blood album was somewhat of a concept album based around the topic of revenge, inspired by all of the rumors flying around about Blood on the Dance Floor due to being called out by the New Year's Day merch guy.
Our band was targeted again, and we kind of lashed out differently. Instead of being angry and taken out in other ways, we basically came up with the concept of this record called Bad Blood. And Bad Blood really was the start to a lot of this whole revenge concept of this record. And it was just saying, like, we're not cool with this. We're not cool with a lot of things that are happening within our movement. And we felt this record needed to happen.
Around this point, like, the rest of the career, I'm just gonna kind of speed through it, because, look, it's not really very interesting after this point. Most of the, you know, interesting meat and potatoes from the early days I already covered, so let's just cut right to the chase. Am I right? I'm drinking a Coke right now, and I'm not usually a big soda guy, but drinking a Coke tonight, you know, hey, sometimes you gotta treat yourself, switch it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Alright, okay, so they put out the Bad Blood album in 2013, they put out another album called Bitchcraft in 2014. Around the time that these albums were released, I think that their general, like, popularity and notoriety within the, like, Warped Tour scene and the greater music industry as a whole was starting to wane, partially due to those allegations from the New Year's Day guy, and also just, you know, they were kind of a fad, and their time was coming to a close. So for these albums, they still had a very strong fan base, though. Like, the BOTDF fan base was still very strong, and they were still doing tours and whatnot, but yeah, the popularity was waning. They released their next album, Scissors, in 2016, and then right after that album, Javon Monroe left the band. Around that time, Javon had also released a statement claiming that Davi had basically been taking advantage of him and controlling his life for the whole time that he was in the band, basically physically and emotionally abusing him, which ranged from Davi doing things like withholding his necessary HIV medication, keeping him from contacting his family, and pushing him to near starvation, which is super sad and unfortunate. So yeah, and then Blood on the Dance Floor was no more in 2016. Davi put it to an end. He then put out a couple albums under the name Sinners Are Winners, which I think from what I've heard are kind of heavier, more like metal type stuff, I believe. One album was called For Beginners, and one album was called The Invocation in 2016 and 2017, respectively. Okay, I actually just now listened to a Sinners for Winners song, and it kind of sounds like if Attila had a baby with, like, Motionless in White. So after this brief time making music as Sinners for Winners, he then brought back Blood on the Dance Floor in 2017 with his new bandmate and I believe fiance at the time, Fallon Vendetta. She has actually recently came out and did an interview with Chris Hansen, as well as an interview with Pastel Bell, and explained her relationship with Davi, which, much like most women, she did not have a very good experience with Davi Vanity at all, and you can go hear her side of it in those interviews. But yeah, he sort of roped her into being his new right-hand man in the new, you know, revamped, reformed Blood on the Dance Floor, and together they released an album called Kawaii Monster in 2017, as well as an album called Haunted and Cinema Erotica, both in 2018. She, I guess, escaped his diabolical clutches as well, and then Blood on the Dance Floor finally came to an end once again in 2019. Since then, Davi has been making music under the name Kawaii Monster. He released an EP called Poison Love, as well as a release called Love from Hell last year, and I think he's supposed to be releasing an album this year called The Balance. Maybe it came out, I don't know, man. He's also I didn't really research this end part because fuck, I'm not gonna go through all this shit. It was really the beginning part that I wanted to talk about, but he also, if you know anything about him or the story currently, he's mostly operating as a clothing line called Dark Arts, with an Instagram page called Dark Arts Official, which he posts like 25 Instagram stories every day. And he is still at large and still apparently targeting underage girls as recently as like April of this year, I think I heard, which is insane and ridiculous. And it's such a good thing that, you know, Chris Hansen and Repzilla and Pastel Bell and everybody on YouTube are doing an amazing job of, you know, really bringing to light this situation and giving the survivors of his abuse a platform to speak from, because for so long they haven't had that platform. And like I said back in the day, there were always rumors about this kind of stuff, but there was never any adults, like real adults like Chris Hansen stepping in and being like, let's take a look at this. Or, you know, there wasn't any like official confirmed, like anytime, just like the Jesse Slaughter situation or a bunch of situations back in the day, every time someone would try to come out against Davi, he would send his, you know, massive rabid fan base of 12-year-olds against this person and get them and silence them, basically. So it's good that now the word is being spread about who this guy really is, and I hope that he sees some jail time for a long time very soon. So yeah, I don't want to keep this video going for too much longer, so yeah, I just wanted to make this video for anyone out there who's curious about, you know, the scene that they came from, like I said in the beginning, or if you didn't know anything about the scene that they came from, or if you weren't aware of them back in the day, you wanted to know more about who Blood on the Dance Floor, the band, was, because I think it does kind of give some context and insight as to the person who Davi Vanity was, and a little bit as to why he sort of got away with a lot of the stuff that he did at the time. You know, I think the scene that they existed in and the type of band that they were really gives it that kind of context. And hopefully in the future, you know what I mean, people like Davi Vanity who want to do the stuff that he did for so many years will get stopped in their tracks early on. People will know what to look for and know what to bring attention to and say, hey, this is sketchy shit, this cannot go any further. Yeah, so anyway, thank you for your time. This has been the Cozy Representative. And, yeah, let's get this dude in prison. My thoughts are to everyone, you know, involved in the situation. Much love to all the survivors. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it did something for you. But yeah, thank you very much. I will catch you next time. It's the Cozy Representative. Have a good night. Peace.